Welcome to this special episode. This episode is a Zoom Q&A recording. We do a monthly Zoom Q&A every month. And this particular month, we focused really heavily on a question that one of the listeners had. So you'll hear Addie, who attended, asking some really interesting questions about a tough character that she has on her team working in leadership in the United States Army. So this is me introing because we're just going to basically dive right in to the Q&A and talk a little bit about a lecture piece, the values and positions iceberg, but mostly we're exploring this question with Addie. And we also have some other guests on the line, and it's myself, Ali, Coreen, and Christina supporting to answer these questions and explore this really interesting topic. Hope you enjoy.
My name's Coreen Lawrence. I am the creator, co-founder with Ali, VBL, Values-Based Living, been a mediator for 15 years. And what we teach, a lot of it comes from the conflict resolution mediation training that we have taken to build the expertise that we have. And I also took that same concept and training and actually adapted it at a time in my life where I really was experiencing a lot of internal conflict and interpersonal conflict, and actually created a whole new way of using these skills that are more designed toward building relationship, building friendship with self, understanding our own values as much as we are using them in conflict with other people. So really turning that skill set internally and inwardly. And similarly to Ali, my favorite thing is when I see people creating a friendship with themselves through self-understanding, building that self-acceptance and turning that into like better confidence, better self-esteem, and having just like a friendship with themselves, even the things that they thought were like really bad sides of themselves, actually being like, that is a side of myself. And I freaking love that so much. That is my joy.
I would love to hear what you have to say. But I'm going to introduce myself. Addie Maisonet. I go by Addie. I work for the U.S. Army as a contracting officer, division chief. I lead a team of contracting officers, and so my office manages. All training, online training for the Army, and also the futures. So all the studies, research on how we are going, the U.S. is going to look like in the future. So that's what we do. So that's a little bit of me, and I look forward to listening to this conversation. So I'm very excited. This is my first time here in these discussions.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm fascinated. I want to ask a million questions about the work that you do, and I'll try to resist that. But thank you for taking a minute to introduce yourself. And I love how you sort of set that tone. Gavin, do you want to say anything about yourself? I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you're in the mood.
Sure, I don't mind being put on the spot. Gavin McClanagan. I know Ali and Coreen through work, and I've been a big fan of their VBL business for, I think, from the beginning, close to the beginning, anyways. I'm an engineer by training, and that little voice in the head that tells people what they want, it's very quiet in mine. So I keep coming back to more VBL because they're really good at drawing that out for me. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you, Gavin. And yeah, okay, thank you both. So let's dive into the topic. I think I'm going to be asking Corrine a lot of questions about this topic, and we're going to just like soak up her many examples of interacting with some tough folks and some tough behavior. And we might all have questions for her because it's a juicy topic. And so to start with, the topic is how to talk to assholes. But to be honest, Corrine and I don't usually go around calling people assholes. Like, so what do we actually mean when we say, like an asshole? And I might start with that, Coreen, if you're okay. Like, what's our definition of that type of person, or that type of behavior?
It's a tricky one because what we really mean by like people that are like frustrating or really aren't helping us out, we have these like a lot of judgmental terms in the English language that they are this, and what we're actually describing is that they are frustrating our internal values, the things that motivate us, the things that we are driven by to get or to have satisfied or experience. And whether purposely or accidentally, they are frustrating our ability to achieve that. So those are folks that don't care to try to understand your needs, who aren't being mindful of hurting people in their words or their actions. They could be a little bit more passive, like they just are oblivious, and we have different kinds of versions of that in our worlds. And what we're really trying to look at is how do we manage working with them? Because a lot of those times we don't get to be like, well, I get to walk away from that relationship. Sometimes we can, and sometimes we don't get to choose that. So whether there are family members or people that are just really important in our lives, maybe there are coworkers, they're in our lives. And the reason why I'm going to take the lead on this, and I often say, like, I don't want to brag, but I am unusually blessed with assholes in my life, which is exactly what brought all of this. And I see them as my Buddha. They're the ones that helped me to create this program that's like, I can't negotiate them and their behavior, but I can be better at understanding myself and better at clarifying what I need from them. They get to decide if they meet or frustrate my values, but nothing can take away the fact that I have a better understanding of myself now. And if they frustrate my values on purpose, that's new information that I really needed to have. And that lets me choose new information in the future. So that's really where this kind of came from. Did you want to add anything to that, Ali?
I just want to say, as I'm thinking about workplaces, Addie, you talking about having a team, and I'm mentoring somebody right now actually who's also working with a team, and that's a unique situation where our the team that we're working with, if we're the leader, we have a level of authority, and we also just we can't necessarily easily um ask one of our staff members to politely leave, leave the situation. So there's a what I love about what we're going to talk about is there is a way to interact with tough behaviors and tough people in which they don't even necessarily have to change a lot for our interactions with them to change a lot. And so I hope we get into a little bit of how that's possible, which maybe we could do, Coreen, by starting with an example. Do you have an example that you could share of like a tough cookie that you've interacted with, what the situation was, and then like maybe getting into a little bit of how you're able to use techniques to work with them. And something I'll just say that we're going to aim to focus on today is there's a particular um, like framework in mediation training um, that we're going to tweak a little bit for our values-based audience called the values and positions iceberg. So, Coreen, if you want to talk about that now or later, just as a preamble, the values and positions iceberg is going to be sort of like the foundation of this conversation, at least in terms of how to deal with tough folks.
Okay. So I also have been blessed with assholes in my life. And it seems
Lucky.
like it seems like when as I climb the ladder in my career, I find more. So and the reasons, so first of all, the way that I see it is not against me. It is because we are getting to is the pyramid, so we are getting closer to that top, and so is that very competitive, so they're trying to establish themselves, and as the way they're doing it, so they are trying to push or away anyone who is threatening their position. So that's how I see it. So I have this coworker, and the way this person goes around is very forceful, sometimes very mean. And so I use different so I am in a leadership program right now, and so we are discussing the different ways to show power. And so one of them is influencing people. So so that's one of them. So influencing people, they just being empathic with people. um so showing that I understand their position, doesn't mean that I have to agree with their position, but I understand their position. Also establishing myself as a SME, subject matter expert, so I can use that power to influence. So, and using my position too. So I'm a division director, and within my position, so I have wide responsibilities and so an authority too. So those are ways that I deal around, but um, myself, I sometimes I have to take a step back and analyze the situation and see how I'm going to deal with the situation. So this is new, or at least uh, I don't know, and I don't want to make it worse, because sometimes we're trying to fix issues when we make them worse. So, and it has happened. So I trying just it's a fast-paced environment, and I need to push things forward, and I'm not getting there, and so I get frustrated, but I have to just relax. And so I'm working on that. Just relax, being resilient, and just think that this is part of the whole situation. So, and it's something that I have to manage, and I have to learn how to manage.
I love it. Again, like this person is your Buddha and is going to help you to deepen your understanding of like how you hold that responsibility, how you hold authority, how you hold competence as an SME, all of these pieces, how you're showing up as collaborative, maybe versus competitive, how you're getting results when they are, jamming up your ability to make results, and fast-paced making things happen, and you're having to really slow down because they're not coming along with you and maybe taking things in their own direction. And how do you influence, and how to use that influence to demonstrate that you're actually more powerful, or that you are powerful because of your ability to see all of these pieces, as opposed to just being here for myself and my objective only. That is an extraordinary place that you find yourself, an absolute training ground for values-based work. And I really am looking forward to hearing more as you go through this, like learning more about values-based living, but how you bring that into your mind and in your heart to say, like, I am very competent in this space, and creating like certainty within yourself about your own competence, your own authority, and with them as well. Like those are two different pieces, two sides of the same puzzle. I mix up my metaphors a lot. You know what I mean, though. So this is a cool space for you to be in, and I'm excited to see what comes next with you. Is there anything in particular that you want for us to talk about? And like, can we like dial into something that you're working on right now? I'm happy to talk about, like, I've got a co-parenting example. I'm happy to talk about that. But if there's something in particular that we can like use as an example, we can dive right into that if you like.
Yes, so I can provide you a specific example. So this person specifically, so I think everything else is pretty manageable. But not long time ago, I have an employee who graduated from a program. So in the army, we they have to go through certain certifications. And so graduated from that the certification. And so to celebrate that, so we had a ceremony, and so with a cake, and so it was pretty good. So and so we wanted to spread some joy and wanted to invite other people around, so not only in my division. So and so it was a thing that we did in a short notice. So and my employees went around and saying, hey, do you want to join us? So we have cake, we have drinks, and so we are going to be celebrating this person who graduated. So not long after, there was a meeting where this person, the one that I don't want to call asshole, difficult person, said that my employees were coercing and forcing, intimidating people to join us.
I'm gonna eat my cake. Oh, that sounds terrible.
So, and I said, what? So, are we forcing people, coercing people to eat cake? That is silly. But, so, but my employees, they're at the lower level. And when someone at a higher level says something like that, they take it personal and they get offended. And so I addressed this employee, difficult peer, and I said, hey, so I didn't say that that's stupid, or I didn't go that way. What I said, okay, so you heard that my employees were around coercing people. So that's serious, and I want to hear more. So we need to start an investigation because we have to address it, and we need to also hold people responsible if that is the case. So of course I didn't hear anything else. Stop there. But so just taking, okay, um, her words. Okay, so you have a concern. Okay, let's address your concern. Not because I see it in another way. Let's address your concern. That's how I managed it. So any other tools that you have to manage that situation? That's the way that I did it at that point. But I would like to hear how you would address it. Any other experiences that you have had that are similar?
Did you want to add anything, Ali?
Just that I love it. Great example. And one of the things I'll just point out one of the skills that you used in that, and then I'll pass to Coreen to like flesh it out more and maybe give more ideas of things that could happen. Because by the way, there's no perfect only one way to respond to a situation, right? So we can maybe throw out different ideas. The first thing you did was you paraphrased what she said. So you're saying what you heard was, that this happened, which is a lovely way of letting somebody know that you heard them, right? And we often skip that step because we feel like, we don't want to just parrot back what they said, but it goes a long way to really prove that you heard what they said by using their words. And then, if you didn't get it right, they can let you know, no, that's not actually what I said. So I just wanted to highlight that it sounds like natural ability that you have to use a paraphrase. But Coreen, yeah, get into the juice for us. This is a great example. Thank you, Addie.
It really is. It's exciting. Yeah. And exactly what Ali said, like that sounds pretty close to textbook. And it also sounds like this is one example of many. And there's something that's still left a little bit on the table. Like I think that you handled that one and you put a pin in that and you let that go. Perfect. And there's something here about false accusations, using big words to create, like there was an intimidation, in fact, in the other direction that needs also to be addressed. And it's probably not the right time to do it in that moment. And if there is a situation in the future, there might be something there that you need to address in a much more healthy way, as opposed to throwing out accusations in the other direction. But there's something about like blowing things out of proportion with the intent to create an effect. And what your work will be, Addie, is to figure out what effect is happening. So, and be able to create neutral ways to describe that. So I don't know if I'm telling you things that you're already working on, that might be possible, but there's only a certain extent that same kind of behavior can go in one direction where you're neutralizing and neutralizing and neutralizing and neutralizing, where it actually creates a pretty unbalanced relationship. And so what I would like figure out in yourself is which values are being frustrated for you in that situation. Get super, super clear. Not that you need to share that with them, but you create backbone and certainty when you are very, very clear in fairness. This is about fairness. This is about respect. This is about being able to trust your coworker to have an appropriate and balanced response to an actual infraction or a situation. That you're starting to lose trust that they can accurately describe a situation that is dire or important or out of balance, and you're losing respect for them. You're losing trust in their ability to be that. And just like dive right in to be like, and you can do that in a lovely way through being judgmental and being a little bit harsh. And you know, like those answers are in you in that reaction, those hot moments. And then use those hot moment thoughts to actually extract and trace them back to like, I actually don't think that they're emotionally regulated. I actually don't trust their ability to address concerns. I actually really feel there's something disrespectful happening, and use that as your path in. Pull those out and then frame a future conversation, which it sounds like they're going to give you every opportunity to have. You're not going to have to work for that. They are like giving you silver platters on a daily basis. And you'll have to pick your timing right, but pick the one that's most obvious. And then say, now let's talk about this. And pick the value and use that as the centering point for your conversation. So in my example about co-parenting, for example, where he's like making up rules about, we're going to change our co-parenting rules today. And these rules that we've had for the last 3 years, because it suits me today, we're going to change these co-parenting rules. And so I pull fairness and I say, okay, we are changing those rules for us. Let's play that out, how that works on both of our sides. So we're saying whoever has the child in our schedule for Christmas gets that child, our child, for Christmas. Oh, hey, Christina. And so that's what we are going to do because that's what's fair. And do we agree that that's what's going to happen going forward, knowing that I will probably have our child more often than you will on Christmas, and watch him like slow blink. What? What? Wait a second. Hi, Christina. Happy to see you. And just understand that those are consequences that I will be holding you to. If we are changing the rules, we will be doing that together. And we're going to document that and we're going to be holding that accountable going forward. So using that same concept, where are they saying, like bringing you consequences that you would never bring to them?
So I have not done that. I have not, but that's a really good way to handle it. So and do you want me to repeat the situation for Christina who joined us? So Christina, I brought up a situation that I have with a coworker. I'm a division director for the Army in a contracting office. So, and I have a team of contracting officers. And recently, so in our profession, so we need certifications. And so one of my new employees got the certification and graduated from the program. Um, and so we were celebrating the graduation, and we brought cupcakes, cakes, and so drinks. And so we wanted to expand that, and we invited everyone in the command to join us. So, and it was a really good moment. But after that, one of my coworkers said that my team forced, intimidated, and coerced all the people around the command to join us and eat cake. So, and so the way I addressed it was that I went to this person, my coworker, and said, "Hey, so I heard you said this. Um, and that's a serious concern. And and I want to address your concerns. So we need to investigate because that's it. If you are coercing or you're intimidating, so that means that you are restricting the the freedom of this person, physical or emotional freedom. So we need to take action on this. Of course, I didn't say anything that this is ridiculous or anything like that. I just took it that okay, so I'm addressing her concerns. So after I addressed it like that, so she stopped. But now, just to take my example to what Coreen is saying, so I have not sat with this person and say, okay, so we have to document it. So I think that's a good way. So we have to document this and see how we are going to pick a value. I think here is accountability, also communication, how we are going to communicate our concerns. Um, so and and I would say also respect, because that goes into being respectful. And so how we are going to deal when we have these situations at work. So when it comes to my team, so we are going to document it, and these are the steps that we are going to take. So that's how I think I would go right now. So probably later on, I'm going to keep thinking, and maybe I find another way to do it.
Hmm. And the more important piece is really like doing that in self-inquiry. And what was it that they were actually jamming up for you? And also your team. Like, I'm assuming, did your team hear about this
Yes,
accusation?
it was in a meeting. I was not there, but it was in a meeting. And they felt that it was an accusation because the senior
Mm.
leader, my coworker, was leading the meeting and started to talk about that, and so they felt like they were put on the spotlight for other people to come forward and starting to just to attack them.
Yeah. Oof, that's tricky. And so like I would say you need to go in as well with your team. One to do like, are we okay? I want like, and I'm sure you're doing this, assess, let them know what steps you have taken as well to sort of stand up for and respond. They need to see and hear about that. But also, what are the values that they got frustrated? What happened for them? And you can use this language to be, um, what was it that got jammed up for you? And especially if you know, Addie, what your value, what your top normal values are, if you've done that assessment and you can say like, these are the ones that motivate me in my world. And of my 5, these 3 got frustrated in this situation, and 2 more that I don't usually have as top ones actually also got mixed up here. Maybe there's something about loyalty, something about team support and like collaboration, the way integrity maybe got frustrated for you, and you can learn about how um power dynamics being used to hurt people is sort of connected to truth or courage or integrity, and being able to say this is how this situation really wound me up on these 3 or 5 or 8. So you can get really clear, and just knowing what those triggers are, how those got activated, and giving them a voice will defuse those triggers, the hotness of those triggers, so that when they inevitably get activated again, you have a little bit more neutrality. That is really important, that you're processing what's happening for you in the background and with your team, so that they can hear you say, this was out of integrity. Like, those are big words to say, and speaking truth and speaking with courage. This was out of integrity for what the perceived infraction was. And then you can move into, so you've got like a little bit of a step in between of like neutralizing and balancing this out with your team, with yourself, and then going back into that conversation. And whether you go back in to say, I want to continue the investigation, or if you want to go back in and say, I want you to understand what the impact of your words, of that accusation was on my team. And maybe, I'm not saying that's what you should do, but if that's what comes up, maybe that's how you frame it, as opposed to, all right, I'm going to call your bluff on this investigation, because that's also possibly a escalation of conflict. And it might be that you wait for the next one. They're going to serve you up another one inevitably and be like, I see a pattern here. And I just want to talk about power dynamics. I want to talk about integrity of respect, or I want to talk about how to be neutral about things that have some hot, like what are some coercion? Like, how do you let us know that something happened for you? Could you just have said, I wanted it to be done differently? And for my team, it would have been maybe 3 weeks in advance, or don't invite us at all. Okay, so if you don't want to be invited to that, just say that. Just say you don't want to be part of these celebrations. That is okay. I am happy to do that. We were being inclusive, not trying to be, and again, inclusivity is a value. How do you anchor your conversation? These really, we call them like unfuckwithable statements, where it's like, we were moving in with our invitations, and we were being inclusive and respectful. That was our intention. That didn't come across. I get that. We've learned something really important about each other. And in the future, we won't be including you to help your team feel a little bit more safe. And that is okay with us. We don't have to include you. That's okay. We get more cake. More cupcakes for us. You win, I win. Maybe my pants don't win, but that is totally fine with us. I don't know. There's some like big consequences for small perceived infractions here that I think you can really well tackle. And if you can do it with a straight face, more power to you.
I think I can do that. Yes, I think I can.
Yeah, that's a skill that you've got that maybe I wouldn't have.
But so I would say, because it happens so often, sometimes I have to pick my battles. So that was a big one, because coercion, to me, that's big. So that's yeah, and so my people got offended, but there are so many other things, little things, and I cannot I cannot get involved in every single little thing. But so on that one, and well, I think through time, so I have learned how to deal with this person, specifically with this person. So, and being more firm when I talk, and calm. I think I have learned that calm, because so um, once someone said that the more people get upset around me, I lower my tone. I didn't know that. But that is something that I do.
Your voice gets lower.
Just yeah. So the more people talk around me, I just go down.
I love that so much. And it's good to have that somebody like reflecting back your defaults where you're like, I didn't even know that,
I
but
didn't, yeah.
that's lovely. And you've obviously got a team that's trusting you to be able to like, here's how I see you behaving, here's how I see you, how you change in when there's reactions going on around you. Ali, did you want to add anything?
I'm loving this conversation. And as
Me
you're
too.
both talking, I'm thinking about communication. Earlier on, Addie, you said something about you were kind of listing, you were exploring like what values might be going on here. And you said maybe accountability, respect thing. And you also said communication. And I'm thinking about um, the influence that you do have in a leadership position here and what possible influence you have over expectations around communication for everybody. And I want to hit on something that Coreen said around um, letting someone know that a more blaming way of speaking, like you are coercive, you have coerced, can be changed into a more accountable way of speaking, which is I felt pressured, for example, would be another way of saying that, or whatever it is that's going on for them, changing it from the blame into the accountability and letting folks know specifically how to do that. Like these tiny little tips, like if you find yourself saying you might want to see if you can switch it to I instead, you know? And then when that does come up in the team, inevitably, you can say, you know, one of my expectations for our team, or one of the things that we've all chosen to adhere to is accountable language. And so when I heard you in the meeting using the word you a lot and these words like coercive or whatever comes up next, you can remind that, that you'd like to hear their experience, because by saying you're being coercive, I don't even get to hear that person's experience. And so in this whole example that we've been talking about, I still have questions about this person, like what's really going on for this person. I still don't know, like what was happening internally for them that elicited that big reaction. We don't know. And that I think could be very informative. It's possible they don't even know, um, but helping to understand as much as possible what might be going on for them. Like there could be some power playing going on. There could be some, um, who know, like there could be some like bad faith motives behind there. But there's probably also some fear, and some maybe quick, like impulsive, this is the way I've always done it, so this is how I'm going to react stuff going on there. And it sounds like you have the ability in your position to guide to different options, like these more accountable options. And so that's something that I would be excited to see if this person um would be willing to hear that, see that modeled, and consider trying that out every once in a while. Because yeah, it does seem like it would make a huge impact on the team, on your ability to do your work, and hopefully on this person's ability to show up as themselves, like as as them as a human, versus what is, a mask around blame. Like blame is such a useful defensive tactic when we don't feel safe enough to talk about ourselves. So it would be great to see this person be willing to put that down and instead talk about themselves. So that's my 2 cents. Christina, I see you have a hand up.
I love that you brought up the language, the accountability language, Ali. And I thought maybe I could add, Adeline, I'm also in a leadership position and myself, and I've been through a few experiences as well, more so on the use of strong terminology. And what I felt really helped was I actually seen Coreen put this in the comments as well, but using curiosity as a tool to have a conversation of that term. So, for example, my term was insubordinate. My boss had mentioned insubordination, and that to me is a very, very strong term. Same with coercion, and automatically it's a very triggering word. But in that conversation, I was able to ask them, like, what is your definition of insubordination? So in this case, what is your definition of coercion? Like, and can you give me examples to tell me how you perceive this as coercion, as insubordination? And I really found that as soon as you kind of flip it back to them, you can start to see their gears going, and they're trying to it kind of puts them on the spot, but also brings back that accountability piece, and that self-assessment of, well, maybe it wasn't actually, maybe that's not the right term, because sometimes, especially when you're in that emotional state, you tend to say things that you don't necessarily mean, or you're just not thinking of the proper terms to use. And so they could be using language that they don't actually mean and not realizing the effects of their language and how it can affect the others around them as well.
Absolutely. That's a great example. And so, like Christina just mentioned, I put in the chat using curiosity. What about that invitation felt coercive? And I hope I spelled that right. How did you feel? So, how did being included create pressure for you or your team? What would you have preferred instead? Because we're going to celebrate, we're going to have people graduating. These are going to continue to happen. How in the future can we do this in a way that doesn't create a situation for you? And if that just means as simple as we don't include you, boy, oh boy, that's easy. Yeah, it's a nice way of switching it around and like exactly like Ali said, holding them accountable for their words. There's something really important here because it's a pattern of behavior where you're going to need to circle back with these folks and stop letting them hijack conversations with explosive words and dial back in and say, we don't want to make judgments about these words. We need to understand these words. And like Christina said, like talk about definitions of these words. Why did you choose that word? Help us understand. Is it a little bit different? And then paraphrase, as you're obviously very well skilled at doing, Addie. And then paraphrase that back. So for you, when you heard this, that felt like pressure for you or your team. Yeah. Okay. Well, would it be that this is a solution that would work better for you in the future? Future focused, inverse, like opposite of what they're saying to you is when you do that, we feel pressured. So if we did the opposite of that, would that remove the pressure? Yeah, in the future, we will definitely be happy to not include you. But that takes a little bit of courage, and it does run the risk of like pick your battles. Pick that right conversation to do that with and hold your ground. So that's where you need to have a really firm grasp on your values so that you can hold tight to that when they start to, maybe they could like throw more inflammatory words out there. Maybe they could really try to rattle you more. Be super straight with this. I'm just being curious. And maybe that's your one that you hold on to for dear life when they're like throwing bombs all around you, trying to like move you off of your power and move you into subservience of their needs. So you're holding your team's values and needs just as importantly as theirs. And that's a hard thing to do when someone's trying to purposely rattle you.
One other thing I'll just add to this as you're talking is around time. Loving the pick your battles, being out there. And the collaboration style of interacting with conflict is a wonderful one and very effective and allows for transformation. One of the downsides of a collaborative style is that it takes time. All of these questions that Coreen is pulling out that's inviting a longer conversation. And when we're in a workplace, time is money and all of these things. So it's about deciding, right? Am I willing to spend the time on this? Is this the battle that I'm choosing? And if so, let's carve out the time for it. It also sounds like this situation is taking time, regardless of whether or not there's like a conscious sit down to explore this. So there may be less of a choice there. Hey, it's almost like either this is going to take time in these spontaneous reactions, or it's going to take deliberate time sitting down to have the conversation. So it sounds like by bringing this up, you're deciding to lean more towards taking the time in the second way. And so I just want to point out that there is I think one of the terms that you use, one of the phrases is go slow to go fast, Coreen, like slowing down now so that in the future, these potential situations that come up will be faster, and trusting that what we do now is going to benefit all these little mini interactions in the future. Um, and still acknowledging that it takes work and it takes a decision to carve out that time where I'm sure you have a huge list of things you could otherwise be doing. So good for you for being willing to pay attention to this and take attention from the other things that you're doing and seeing the benefit of doing that.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any more comments about Coreen about this particular example before we maybe like say a couple more things and then wrap up for the day? Gavin.
I'm very fascinated at this because you come at this a very different way than I do, and I quite value that. But yes, in my process oriented way, I always try and start by cultivating grace in myself. And people don't know why they do what they do. And when you see someone who's accusing you of coercing people by offering them cake, it just kind of, what's going on here? But if you knew what really motivated them, you could see how they would say, I felt coerced by being offered cake. But you can't go from they felt coerced by being offered cake to back to what truly motivated them. So I mean, in my process way, you're in the army. It's a hierarchical organization. You probably have an opportunity to just like show some curiosity, like Coreen said, about how are my junior staff coercing and bullying your more senior staff? It doesn't seem right. Like if you offer them, we can go down this path, but it doesn't seem right. Is there more there, or can you help me explain? It kind of you can't tell people that you don't know why you're doing this. People get defensive. But if you show that we go down this path and it seems absurd, can we back up and go to what what's truly motivating you? That might seem you might have an opportunity to give them that better option, or it looks better to them to back up and what's truly behind all of this. Because we're taking shots in the dark at what this is, because they're not giving you good information on like how is cake coercing you? Are you diabetic? Is this something that could kill you? Maybe. Are carbs evil to you? Okay, I can relate to that. But how is that like it just seems absurd on the face, but if you treat it as absurd, you're not going to allow for that curiosity. So it's a tough spot, and they have not helped you solve it. And I'm big congratulations for you taking on the role of you have to do the extra work you shouldn't have to do to solve this. So congratulations on that. I find that tough too.
And that's a nice little segue back into the iceberg. So where we've got this idea of the positions are above the waterline, what we can see above that waterline of conclusions that are being made, or me saying, here's what I want. And then under the waterline is the values of why I want what I want or how I got to that conclusion. And purposely taking that information that's above the waterline. This was coercion, and saying, I'm going under the waterline to say, how did you get there? What was that like for you? Tell me more about your experience, exactly like Ali was saying. To dive underneath, like Christina was saying, tell me about this word. What does that, why did you choose that word? And it has to be done with a very specific mindset of genuine curiosity, as opposed to using it as an intent to expose weakness or lies or whatever, which can be very tricky when you're being triggered again, which is why I want you to be able to have certainty about why you want to do what you're doing, so that you can come into this and be like, I got to learn something here. I see this, I hear this, I see this like conclusion that you're making, and they don't line up for me. Help me understand this. What happened in between here and here? And they just don't match. Can you help me understand that piece? And genuinely having a heart wide open, but being very clear with what the position is can help you keep grounded in that conversation. I heard you say this above the waterline piece. I'm really looking to understand what's underneath. And you've done the work to be able to say, here's what's under my waterline. Here's what my values are being brought into play here, where I'm holding space for my team to feel safe, where you're having a public conversation, and these are the things that are like, this is a power dynamic that really kind of rocked the boat here. And just being really thoughtful and conscious, using this construct to be very deliberate about what you're doing, and why you're doing it. This must be exhausting for you. This is a lot of, we have a word for this now, emotional labor. And you are doing a lot of emotional labor for this person who gets to just be like, and, and you're like always in this space of like sheltering from this storm, this tempestuousness that is constantly coming your way. And that's a lot to do in addition to the work that you're doing. And I just want to take a minute to honor that and be like, oof, that's a lot. And it's not nothing. In fact, it's probably harder than just the job that you're doing.
Yes, it is.
Right?
It is. So I get exhausted just by sitting down with my people and okay, so I'm going to listen to you. What happened? And so, and even when I don't address every single issue, because I find that I cannot just get involved in everything, I listen to them. I
Mm-hmm.
take notes. And I try to be that person who is available whenever they want to talk to me. I think that's necessary in my position to leave that door open. And so sometimes what I recommend my people, just I provide recommendations. So I think you should do this and that. But sometimes like at that meeting, so I got involved. So, but because at the same time, I want my people to be equipped to handle those conversations. Because at some point they are going to be in a higher position where that constant thread is going to come to them, and I as a leader, I need to teach them how to do that, and with my example, leading by example. So, but yes, it's exhausting. It happens almost every week. There is something. So, and for them, depending on their position, sometimes they see it as a big thing. That is, they feel that uh, they don't feel secured in their position. You mentioned that earlier. So they feel like this is a senior leader who is saying these words, and I'm a junior employee. How is that going to impact my job? So, and I have to reassure them that everything is going to be good.
I don't envy your position. And I think like if you can see it as this person is teaching you how to be really good at this and giving you weekly opportunities to teach, one by example, and two, like here's how we understand ourselves. Like understanding the impact to your team, I think is going to be a really important piece. And creating assertive statements around the impact to your team, I think is also going to be an important piece that you need to develop next. Of this is the impact. This is hurting our productivity. This is taking offlining work time that we could be doing our work, and it's just unnecessary. Yeah, we're gonna have to move into that direction a little bit less reactive and more proactive of, I think we've had enough here. And speaking of which, we're coming to the end of our hour. And this has been an absolute joy to be part of this conversation with each of you. And I'm really excited about the example that you brought, Addie. Thank you so much. Ali, do you want to walk us out?
Yeah, I hope you all come back for future months. And Addie, I would love to hear how this progresses. Please, if you feel comfortable, come to a future Zoom Q&A and give us an update about how things are going with this. That would be really fun and a great learning opportunity, I think, for everybody. I put in the chat a link to register for future events, future Q&As. We also do a circle every month, which is tomorrow, actually, at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And what that is we focus on one value a month and really encourage self-reflection and getting to know our relationship with that value. Our relationship with every value is going to be unique to us. And the better we are in relationship with those, the better able we are to interact in tough situations. So really encourage all of you to take a look at that and come if it resonates with you. Thank you so much for coming for this hour. It's been really, really worthwhile and really valuable. So I hope to see you all again. And feel free to send us an email if you have any questions or anything that comes to you later. Otherwise, we'll see you hopefully at the next event.